Ah, a rare mind. Welcome, wanderer. You now stand upon the battlefield of minds, where only the chosen dare to think beyond. You've all heard the names: Jung, Nietzsche, Krishna, Socrates, the celebrated minds carved into the annals of time, quoted and followed like prophets. But in the span of my eternity, I am but a breath compared to time itself, and in that breath, I have come across souls whose thoughts were no less profound, thinkers, wanderers, war-torn men and quiet women, whose names have long turned to dust. No one remembers them, no one writes books about them. But I listened, and I learned. I will not claim they were greater than the legends you revere, but I will say this: they stood as equals, not beneath their shadows, but shoulder to shoulder. Naturally, by mortal standards. Today, I bring you one such voice, not a scholar, not a saint, but one who has seen the fire up close, a war veteran. Let us walk through his thoughts, and perhaps find your own.
There are no trumpets in the beginning of morality, no divine hands etching commandments into stone. Just a trembling moment when a human being, alone with their own reflection, asks the simplest and hardest question: should I? That question is where God begins, not in the sky, not in the scriptures, but in the silence before a choice. Because before morality was written, it was felt. Before it was taught, it was struggled with, not in temples, but in the raw, unlit chambers of the human mind. Morality is not goodness, it is restraint. It does not make us good. It simply tells us how much evil we are willing to hold back. A moral person is not innocent. They are dangerous, but choose not to act on that danger. We speak of compassion and virtue as if they are gifts, but morality is born in conflict, in shame, in the quiet war inside the self. Real morality is not performance. It is choice under duress. A starving man who doesn't steal, that is morality. Not because stealing is inherently wrong, but because he made a choice with teeth in it. No stakes, no morality. Easy virtue is just theater. Behind every moral system there is blood. Every civilization that teaches do no harm was built by those who first did harm. Religions preach peace, but were carried forward by the sword. Even Ashoka found compassion after the slaughter of 100,000 souls. Morality at its root is a flower that grows from a grave. You cannot be truly moral until you face your capacity for immorality. You must meet the part of yourself that could lie, cheat, kill, and not flinch. Only then does restraint have meaning. Most people think they are good because they've never been tested. But untested goodness is just luck. And sometimes the moral thing to do looks evil. Lying to save a life. Killing to stop a genocide. Abandoning someone who depends on you because they are dragging you under. Morality is not always clean. It isn't always beautiful. It bleeds, it grieves, it makes enemies. And often it means doing wrong to protect what is right. The truth is, morality is lonely. If you truly live by your ethics, you will stand alone. Crowds will abandon you. People will hate you. Even those you love may turn away. But morality is not a social agreement. It is a private code, written in pain and upheld in silence. Perhaps the greatest evil is not done by those who break rules, but by those who never question the ones they are given. The final truth. The greatest threat to morality is obedience. Blind, unquestioning obedience. Morality in its deepest form is not submission. It is rebellion, a soft, stubborn whisper that says, even if the world says yes, I say no. And then there is war. War reveals more than wounds. It strips humanity down to its marrow. It does not uncover hers or monsters, but ordinary people, trembling in the same skin, driven by the same instinct, to return. Not to glory, not to honor, but to warmth, to a place where the smell of blood does not linger on the skin, where the silence is not haunted. Morality, in such moments, does not lead us. It follows us. It is not a compass, but a curtain, drawn after the fact to cover the machinery of instinct. We speak of codes and noble causes, but beneath those words lies something more primal, the desperate greed to survive, to see one more sunrise, to feel the weight of a loved one, to breathe in peace, even for a moment. Those who survive are not the strongest, nor the smartest. They are simply the greediest. Greedy not for blood, not for conquest, but for life itself. And it is that hunger, raw and relentless, that drives us. It silences doubt. It buries shame. It makes monsters and saints alike, sometimes in the same breath. Morality comes after. It is the story we wrap around survival to make it bearable, the structure we build so the mirror doesn't crack when we look at ourselves. But war does not care for stories. It does not answer to commandments or creeds. It reveals that good and evil are not absolutes. They are decisions made under pressure, cloaked in necessity and justified only by the need to endure. In that harsh light, morality is not about doing what is right. It is about doing what is necessary. And when the dust settles, we dress necessity in virtue and call it moral. But in those brutal, honest moments, it wasn't righteousness that carried them home. It was the will to survive. And nothing is more human or more dangerous than that. Those who sit in comfort and shout from behind flags, who declare, this nation is right, or that one must fall, speak from a distance so vast, it strips their words of weight. They treat war like a contest of ideologies, but war is not a game. It is not won on debate stages or in news feeds. It is suffered, breath by breath, in trenches, in broken homes, in the minds of those who return with their humanity fractured. To choose sides from safety is not patriotism, it is arrogance. Only those who've lost, who've bled, who've buried the ones they loved, have earned the right to speak of war's cost. Everyone else should listen and remain silent. They say the silence after a firefight is the loudest thing. To them, war is simple, because they consume it from a distance. They cheer when an enemy falls without ever asking who he was, never wondering if he had a mother, a dream, a face. And the cruelest irony, those who cry loudest for war are often those most shielded from its consequences. They speak of justice and morality with a fire born not from experience, but from ego. But when the real weight of conflict emerges, those ideals vanish, like breath on cold glass. What remains is not duty, but hunger. Not for peace, but for dominance. And beneath that hunger, all flags look the same, All causes sound hollow. The only voices that matter are those trembling inside the fire, those who paid the price in full. Everyone else should learn to listen. And if we look closely, beyond nations, beyond names, we begin to see that even religion, even scripture, is not always divine. Often, it is survival, codified. The harsher the land, the harsher the law. What we revere as sacred commandments were perhaps once desperate instructions for living through chaos. Ethics shaped not by heaven, but by heat, famine, and fear. Not God speaking from above, but man whispering to himself. How do we endure this world? So where then does morality truly live? Not in laws, not in religions, not even in philosophy. It lives in the quiet ache that follows you after you betray yourself, in the courage to do what no one will ever praise, in the refusal to become less, even when the world tempts you to. This is the God within, not a voice from the sky, but one that rises trembling from below. It does not shout. It simply asks, will you choose to care? Will you stay human, even in an inhuman world? And your answer, that is your morality, not borrowed, not inherited, but born of fire. In the end, morality is not a set of rules. It is a mirror, and if you dare to look into it truly, you will not see judgment. You will see possibility. The world may break around you, but as long as you still ask, should I, then the God within still lives.
Many threads of philosophy were touched today. Morality, war, justice, and the terrible hunger for survival. These are not easy subjects, and they are not meant to be. In time, we will return to them, with scholars, warriors, healers, each bringing their own fragment of truth. But remember this, it is never the voice that matters most, nor the name behind it. It is your ability to think, to question, to dwell deeply. So think, not just about what is right or wrong, but why you believe it to be so. You don't need to follow blindly, not me, not anyone. Debate, reflect, ask, because in the end it is always you who must choose. You who must carry the weight of that choice. So choose wisely, dear wanderer. And before we part, know this. Something the veteran said stayed with me. It trembled something ancient in me. Not that I have a soul. But if I did, it would have stirred. In the end, it's your conviction, your morals that must remain unshaken. Let no god, no devil, no prophet, and no doctrine bend them. I walk strongest when I walk with my own truth. And when I do, nothing touches me. No war, no fear, no false promise. It is better to follow the compass within than to be led by a book written for another man's storm. Until next time, when another voice steps from the fire and we listen together.